definition.
Thanks for trusting KRTV as your source for news. I'm Shannon Newth.
And I'm Tim McGonigal. It's day 2 in the murder trial of Adam Sanchez Jr., the man accused of killing Cascade County Sheriff's Deputy Joe Dunn. Monday brought the beginning of jury selection.
MTN's Joe Huizenga joins us from the Yellowstone County Courthouse with details from today's proceedings.
With the jury chosen Tuesday morning in the case of Adam Sanchez, no time was wasted. Opening statements began with prosecutors giving a detailed account of the chase that killed Deputy Dunn. They used a map to mark each important point of the pursuit from its beginning to the time Sanchez was taken into custody. The defense opened by reminding jurors that the state must prove Sanchez had the intent to kill Dunn. Public defender Tom Bartleson sat in a chair while he explained that Sanchez never even saw Deputy Dunn.
When the defendant saw Joe, he accelerated towards him, swerved his car directly towards him, aiming his car at Joe, hit and killed Joe.
And make the decision whether or not the deputy was even seen and whether or not there was a knowing choice, as the state has said, to turn towards him and strike him.
The first witness called by the prosecution was MHP trooper Sam Goodymoot, who initially attempted to stop Sanchez for speeding. Goodymoot described the chase as it developed and narrated his car's dashcam video. He testified Sanchez was able to avoid 2 sets of stop sticks before coming to Dunn. And while the defense has suggested that Sanchez was only trying to avoid Dunn's stop sticks, Goodymoot remained adamant that Sanchez intentionally swerved to hit Dunn. Following Goodymoot, jurors heard from several drivers who witnessed the incident, and the testimony varied on whether Dunn's stop sticks were even out, but everyone agreed that Sanchez had other options and Deputy Dunn did not have to die. In Billings, Joe Huizenga, MTN News.
The number of people in Montana killed by their spouses or partners is on the rise. A legislative interim committee heard that data today. A record 16 people have died this year in Montana in homicides by intimate partners. In the last 15 years, women committed about 1/4 of those homicides. On Indian reservations, women committed more than half of them. Nearly half of the intimate partner homicides in Montana are also suicides, a much higher rate than the national average. In about half of those murder-suicides, the children are also killed.
And already here at the end of September, it's the highest number of killings since we've been keeping track. We still have October, November, and December left, and in many years, the final quarter, those last 3 months, we see actually a spike. The numbers are what they are, and this has not been a good year for domestic violence victims.
Recommendations of the state's Domestic Violence Fatality Review Commission include improved training for public assistance, case managers, and a law to specifically address strangulation. The commission also recommends raising the amount of compensation from the state for victims' funeral costs. It's been at $3,500 since 1995.
Congress is voting tomorrow on whether to continue federal funding for Planned Parenthood, which has been at the center of a political storm.
Now, many Republicans point to evidence that Planned Parenthood provides tissue from aborted fetuses to medical research. In Montana, the money helps Planned Parenthood clinics in Billings, Missoula, Great Falls, and Helena provide family planning services to low-income patients. That includes things like birth control, testing for sexually transmitted diseases, and cancer screenings. Planned Parenthood of Montana CEO Martha Stahl says none of that money funds abortions and that no Planned Parenthood clinics here are involved in the fetal tissue research. But Montana's 2 Republican members of Congress, Senator Steve Daines and Representative Ryan Zinke, want to end federal funding for Planned Parenthood.
The destruction and selling of our children, to stare clearly into the face of the appalling and do nothing.
In many states, we've had investigations of Planned Parenthood after these videos came out, and in every single state that's completed their investigation, Planned Parenthood has been found to have done absolutely nothing wrong.
In Great Falls, Planned Parenthood supporters joined a national movement called Pink Out Day with at least 240 events nationwide. They range from rallies to sex education to free STD testing. Great Falls Planned Parenthood chose to do a 4-block walk with the intention of hand-delivering a letter to U.S. Representative Ryan Zinke's regional office. Zinke voted in favor of the bill that would defund Planned Parenthood. Community organizer Jules Schindel says they had 3 goals for the event: to exercise their rights, speak about Planned Parenthood, and bring together patients and supporters.
We have had many people send in letters to the editor, letters of support. We've had many donations come in today. Earlier today we were tabling outside of Great Falls College and we had a lot of support.
The event received both support from vehicles honking as they drove by as well as opposition. There was a protest against Planned Parenthood in Great Falls back in August. And the bill Representative Zinke voted on was the Defund Planned Parenthood Act of 2015. In a statement from Zinke's communication director, Heather Swift, she says, like many Montanans, Congressman Zinke is deeply troubled by the inhumane and possibly criminal acts depicted in the videos and voted to defund Planned Parenthood for 1 year while an investigation occurs. This vote in no way cuts funding for women's health services. Representative Zinke believes education and access to contraceptives, as well as regular checkups and screenings, are critical to the health and wellness of our neighbors. To that end, Zinke worked with leadership in the House to improve the bill to ensure funding would remain for women's health services at rural and community health centers across Montana. Senators John Tester and Steve Daines voted on a different bill aimed to defund Planned Parenthood, with Tester voting against defunding and Daines voting in favor. With the Senate approving a bill to forestall a government shutdown at least until December, Montana may have dodged a bullet to its economy, especially if the all-important fall tourism season. Monday evening, the Senate approved a continuing resolution on a vote of 77 to 19, setting the stage for the House to take a similar vote before the end of the week. Senator John Tester believes lawmakers still have the 2013 shutdown fresh in their minds and would like to avoid the kind of closure that closed national parks and monuments like Glacier and Yellowstone. Tester believes continued operations are critical, especially this time of year when the park communities are depending on every dollar before tourism slows for the winter.
It is hundreds of millions of dollars that it's going to cost this country, if not billions of dollars. And it really impacts Montana in a real negative way with our parks and with the high number of veterans we have in this state and with the high amount of BLM land that we're trying to process permits on, and then the federal employees we have really get taken to the cleaners.
Tester says the 2013 shutdown resulted in a 0.6 percentage point hit on the gross domestic product during the 17-day shutdown 2 years ago.
Continuing coverage now of a high school senior suing the Montana High School Association. 18-year-old Tyler Taylor of Helena's Capital High hoped he'd be able to play football during his final year of high school. But because he received a high school equivalency diploma, or HSED, by taking the HiSET exam at Trapper Creek Job Corps, the MHSA has deemed Taylor ineligible. The Montana Board of Education states he must be 19 years old to receive a high school equivalency diploma. There are waivers available allowing students ages 16 to 18 to take the HiSET, but the student must not be enrolled in high school. Taylor was dual enrolled at Trapper Creek and Sentinel High School when completing the HiSET. Taylor says he isn't outright blaming the state or Trapper Creek. However, he does believe there was a lack of communication somewhere leading him to receiving an HSED, which Taylor says he doesn't even qualify for.
They do a fine job getting kids in and out of there with the stuff they need to go onto the workforce, but it was just I think it was just a mistake, and I'm suffering some consequences from that, and I'd like to fix that.
The case is now at the Montana Supreme Court with a motion pending before a district court judge requesting to allow Taylor to play football while the lawsuit proceeds. Well, it's another blow to Montana's timber industry after Tricon Timber in St. Regis laid off nearly 90 of its employees last week. Tricon Vice President of Logistics Joe Zito tells us the stud market has suffered all year, and now buyers are holding off because they're waiting to see what the end of the U.S.-Canadian softwood trade agreement next month will do to prices. He tells us that's just part of the problem facing the timber industry right now.
Basically, our legislators have to do something about that softwood agreement. With the yen being devalued, we're also having to contend with Canada usually sent their lower grade studs in overseas. Now it's not profitable for them to do that, so that market's going to come into the United States also. So not only are we going to be competing with the higher grade, but we're going to have to compete with the whole gambit of our product mix.
Tricon Timber is one of the largest employers in Mineral County. Zito says he hopes once market conditions improve, they can hire back those who were laid off. Well, it was quite the warm